All right, today's lesson is some kind of minor details as we're finishing up these maps. We're going to take a look at the point spotlight, which is sort of a special effect to go with our light spot. And then we're also going to add some dust particles to the air. So these are kind of things that we'll set up as we're finishing up here towards the end of the map. These are really nice details to make things a little more visually stunning. And they're just nice little details, very simple to add. So we're going to start by, we're just going to create a couple of spotlights here. So let me run the map and we'll take a look at what the effect that we're working on today is, and then we'll go back through the steps. So let me load my map up here. All right, so on this map I've got a spotlight, and the spotlight on the left has a special effect on it called a point spotlight. The one on the right is just a regular light spot, and they're close to each other. However, you can, from here, actually, it's pretty obvious. The light on the left, this one right here, has that kind of bright glow to it, but it's also got a stream of light coming out of it. And if you go to the front of it, it's bright like a real light. Whereas the one on the right here doesn't have that same blinding effect. It's still a spotlight, it's still illuminated. You can see that it is shining out into the room here, but it's not creating that halo of light around it, and it doesn't have the beam of light coming out of it. So when we go off to the side here, you can see this light on this side. If I get into position, this one has kind of a beam of light coming out, and you can see that the one on the other side doesn't. Now the other thing I want you to look at, if I stop walking, you should be able to see the dust particles floating in the air. So we're going to add both of those things today. There's the daily bell, and we're going to add both of those things. Very simple, and but they look really nice once we add them. So we're going to start out with a quick look at our light spot. So you'll notice I've got a prop here. I don't really care what prop you use for this. I did one with two. That way I could show you the left and the right, the difference between them. And you can see that this one's got a light spot and this one's got a light spot plus something else. So let's look at the light spot first. So the light spot over on my entity over here, it's one of our lights, right? We've got our point lights, our environmental lights. So the light spot is our spotlight. And when you place it into the map, it's got this cone of light that kind of shows you the direction that it's going to go. And it's got a few extra settings that a regular light doesn't have. So I'll show you the settings if you want to just duplicate what I've done here. And I learned this from another tutorial. And so these aren't like the must-use settings, but they work really good for this particular tutorial. So here's the color and the brightness. Now remember, spotlights require extra light. It's like this in every engine I've ever played with. For whatever reason, spotlights, they're not as bright as a regular light, so they have to have extra light. So this is my color, and then remember here at the end, this is the brightness. Now when we go down here, we've got our angles. So the outer cone, I'm going to go ahead and reduce that down a little bit. I think it was a little wide. And then we have an inner angle here. So this is where the light is kind of brightest, and then it's going to fade through this area here. And so the inner cone is going to be your brighter area, and then this is going to be your duller fade to nothing on the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and take that inner, and I'm going to drop it actually down to 20. All right, that all looks good. And you can play with these, whatever makes you happy. It doesn't really matter. These aren't set in stone. Then what we're going to do is we're going to apply that, and we're going to take that spotlight, and we're just going to line it up with your light, whatever your light source is. Now remember, to get it precisely lined up, we can hold down the Alt button, which allows us to move this object freely off the grid. Okay? This is one of those times when, this is an acceptable thing to do. Normally we try not to get off grid, but occasionally you'll find a prop that's off grid, or in this case, I need to get this light lined up, but not into, I don't want to put the light in the prop. I want to keep it like right in front of the prop here. So you can see it's right at the edge of the prop here. So I'm going to use my Alt, click and drag, and that allows me to kind of move this thing around and get it right where I want it. Okay, so sitting right in front of the light. Now, the second thing here, we're going to go to our Entity tool, and this guy is called a Point Spotlight. So you're going to go to your Entity tool, you're going to come over here, type in Point Spotlight, and you're going to drop in the Point Spotlight. So that thing looks like this. And this is what creates that halo special effect. And we're going to line that up exactly with the arrow of your spotlight. So you see this arrow here, this arrow coming off my spotlight. I'm going to get those two things lined up pretty good, but the point spotlight is going to be back a little bit because I want it to emanate right from the front of this light here. I don't want the beam of light to start in front of the light. So this is going to be back a little bit. And you might have to compile and kind of move it around a little bit. You can kind of see where mine's at. It's sunk in here pretty far. But the main thing is I've got these arrows lined up pretty well. If you look at it from this angle as well, the arrows are all pointing together. These arrows are pointing together. You know, I can see that everything's lined up here. Now the point spotlight, pretty easy to set up. For the color, we're just going to copy the color from our light spot. So I'm going to go to the brightness, and if you remember these first three numbers here, these are the color of the light. The fourth number is the brightness. So I'm just going to grab these colors right here, these three, just copy them, and then I'm going to go to my point spotlight where it says color, and I'm just going to paste that value right in there. Down here we have a spotlight length and a spotlight width. So this is how wide that kind of beamy, halo-y light is going to be. You can play around with it, you know, put it to whatever. Maybe I'll make it a little bigger just to see what that looks like. And then the length. This is how far it's going to shoot out from here. So let's go, I don't know, let's try 650. We'll make it a little bit bigger. And that's really all you have to do. You need to set the color, and then you can play with the length and the width if you'd like to. Click apply. And let's go ahead and compile it again. So I made a couple changes to it. We'll see what that looks like. Alright, so the beam looks maybe to be a little wider, and it looks like it shoots out to around here now. It definitely comes out a little further than it did before. And there's that brightness effect that we want. And when I come over here to it, I can see I could actually move it back just a tiny bit more. It looks like it might be off the light by maybe an inch. I could probably scoot it back just a tiny bit if I wanted to. Alright, so there's that. Let me see. Let's move it back just a tiny bit using my Alt button. And I was happy with all of that. The FX amount, so this is how much of the effect, how powerful it's going to be. 255 is the top value. So you can play around with that, just see what differences, you know, kind of play with that number until you get the effect you want. But that's it. Very simple to set up, and it gives you that very nice, the kind of the bright light in your face effect, but it also gives you that beam of light, which is really nice, and it helps identify your spotlights rather than them just looking like regular lights. Moved it back just a tiny bit. That's probably good. Yeah, I think it's right up on the housing now. And I've got a nice bright glare when I go in front of it. And I've got that nice cone beam emanating out of it. Perfect. All right, now let's look at the other one, which is the dust particles. So dust particles, another super easy thing, but they look really nice once you put them in. So it's simply this box right here. Okay. You can see I kind of put it in line with my light beam. I could rotate it a little bit if I wanted to. Okay, so what this is you're going to take your block tool and you're going to make a box. Just a regular old box. And you're going to cover it with trigger texture. Okay, so browse, type in trigger, and you've got your box, press enter, and you end up with this thing here. Okay, just a trigger box. And you're going to position it, kind of where you want the dust particles to be. So I've got it in front of my spotlights here. Now it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to use your any of your like vertex editing or anything like that. It's dust particles in the air, so it can be approximate. It's really not a huge issue. You're going to right click on it, tie to entity, and you're going to drop your menu down and you're going to find function dust motes. Click apply. And then you're just going to go through. There's a few changes we can make, and these are all entirely up to how you want it to look. So the particle color, the tutorials I've seen are usually yellowy, goldish, brown, somewhere in that range. I've used white before, or really light colors. Just play around with it. Darker colors generally don't look as good in my opinion, but you can play around with, your colors, kind of find whatever you want. Particles per second is the density of how many are going to spawn within this area per second. Particle speed, this is kind of their floating speed, the little dust particles floating in the air. This is how long they last. So we have two values here. So it's going to randomize somewhere in between these. When it spawns a particle, it's going to last between 2 to 10 seconds. This is how far away you can see them. So default's fine. If you feel like you can see them from too far away, decrease this value. It's really, but 1024 seems to work fine. Minimum particle size and maximum particle size. This is how big the little specks of dust are going to be. That's it. Alpha is sort of how transparent they are. So the maximum value is 255, so this is 180. Again, play with this number to find a number that you like. So none of these are set in stone. You could copy these and then play around with them a little bit if you want to. And that's it. You click apply, and now dust particles will spawn in this. So if you've got like a house with windows and light coming in through the windows, you could put one of these in front of each window, just copy and paste it, and you'll get that really cool dust effect in front of the windows, like you would see, like when I'm looking around this room right now, I can see when the sun is streaming in through the windows, I can see little dust particles where the windows are at. So really simple, but minor thing, but it actually looks pretty neat. So let's do a compile again. All right. I changed them to a lighter color. Yeah, I don't know. That looks okay. I don't hate it. Yeah, I think those are okay. And then if I back away far enough, I don't know if I can get far enough away. I guess I can't. I can't get more than 1024, but if I were to back away far enough, the dust particles would disappear. All right, so that is dust motes and point spotlights. Really nice little special effects you can put on your map. Check teams for the assignment, and that'll be it.